Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel. This is my review for Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which is the second movie based off the RPG game of the same name. The first movie came out in the year 2000. I have not seen it myself. All I know about it is that it stars an overacting Jeremy Irons. This movie, however, has nothing to do with that previous one, and it's directed by Jonathan Goldstein and Francis Daley, the same team that was responsible for Game Night, one of my favorite comedies of the last decade, and a movie that I think is highly underrated. Our main character is played by Chris Pine. He is a thief that works with a bunch of other people to try to retrieve a lost relic that would help him in the long run because it was a relic that he tried to get before the events of this movie. But unfortunately, in that previous adventure, he pissed off the wrong kind of people, so his group has to pretty much overcome those people that he wronged. Full disclosure, I am not into Dungeons & Dragons whatsoever. It's not that I dislike it or anything, I've just never played it myself, and I wouldn't go out of my way to try and play it unless I was invited by a group of friends to play it. My knowledge on this RPG goes about as far as the Dungeons & Dragons episode in Community, so I have at least some sort of idea of what it's like. And of course there was the infamous movie from 2000, and I didn't know this until the middle of recording this review, but apparently it spawned 2 sequels? Oh, really? Ah, there we go, that makes sense. They were 2 direct-to-video sequels. The second movie came out in 2005 called Wrath of the Dragon God, and the third one came out in 2012? Called The Book of Veiled Darkness. I didn't think that a crappy 2000s movie would get to... whatever. If Universal managed to pump out so many direct-to-video sequels to American Pie, Tremors, and The Scorpion King, then why not Dungeons & Dragons? But I'm not talking about that original movie. I'm talking about this one right here. So based on my lack of knowledge of the series, I didn't know what to make of this going in. I thought it had a chance because the cast is good, I like the directors, especially their last movie, Game Night. So this could have gone either way. And for somebody like me who's a total outsider to D&D, I actually found this really fun. In fact, I don't think you really need to be into Dungeons & Dragons in order to enjoy this movie. It's just a fun fantasy adventure. Does it reach the height of something like, say, the Lord of the Rings trilogy? Well, if you have to ask yourself that question, you already know the answer. But the point is, you shouldn't have to compare this to something like Lord of the Rings, because it's more of a comedy, and it's an effective one. The cast works really well together. Both Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez actually have really good chemistry together, and Chris Pine, as always, he steals every scene that he's in. Michelle Rodriguez is basically playing a tough warrior type, and that's what she's good at, and she fits the role perfectly well. Justice Smith plays an inexperienced wizard with self-esteem issues, and it's pretty much reminiscent to a lot of other roles he's played, except unlike, say, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, he's not irritating. He is a tad charming, and it's kind of cool to see him progress through this movie. Sophia Lillis, aka Beverly from 2017's It, is actually the least interesting person of this group. She's the last member of this group to come in, and honestly she doesn't really offer a whole lot outside of just transforming into a bunch of animals. She can be a little snarky here and there, and she has her moments where she is useful, but out of the main cast, she was the one that actually stuck out the least to me. Especially when you consider that one of the villains of this movie is played by Hugh Grant, who is just absolutely soaking up every bit of screen time that he has. He is a very funny, very charming villain. He's basically that really self-absorbed villain who only cares about himself and takes delight in only caring about himself. Unfortunately though, he's not really the main villain of the movie. The main villain is this red witch, Sophia, who is actually very, very dull. I didn't think there was anything to this character, and at the end of the day, she's more of an obstacle for the main characters to try to fight. And honestly, I would have preferred to see Hugh Grant be the main villain of the movie, because he's more interesting and more fun to watch. In terms of a technical side, this movie does look really good. It's got some great production design, the costumes are nice, and there's a surprising amount of practical special effects throughout. A lot of creatures are actually done done through animatronics and suits rather than full-on CG, which is something I didn't expect, but it's a welcome surprise. I'd even go as far to say that a lot of these fantasy creatures that are done practically look better than any of the animatronics used in Jurassic World Dominion. Alright, I'll stop the Jurassic World slander and just focus on this movie, because at the end of the day, I found this to be a lot of fun. I wasn't emotionally invested, and I'm sure there's a lot of nods and Easter eggs to the D&D game that I just was oblivious to, but like I said at the beginning of this review, I don't think you have to be into D&D to enjoy this movie, and for somebody who's not into it, I'd say it's good, but it's not great. It can be a little too predictable, and there are a few scenes that go on a little longer than anticipated, but overall, I found this to be quite enjoyable and a lot of fun. And there you go, that's my review for Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.